It's Beer O'Clock and it's the Beer O'Clock Show. My name's Mark, and joining me is my old beer buddy, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing alright. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, mate.
Very good. Also joining us, a previous guest back to grace us with his presence, is beer blogger and our old buddy, Glenn Johnson. Hello, Glenn.
Hello. Good evening, Mark. Good evening, Steve.
Evening,
How are you
Glenn.
doing, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Very good. We've got an interesting beer this week, making somewhat of a change from a lot of the beers we've had this season. This is going back to our supermarket staples. But we'll get to what beer it is. You can tell what beer it is from the title of the show. It's Bishop's Finger from Shepherd's Neame. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. Stephen.
Mark.
What interesting beer stuff have you gotten up to in the last week?
Not a lot, really. Just some fairly standard beers, really. Nothing too special to write home about.
Very good. What about you, Ben? Me, I've done sod all. I had a dry weekend.
I went to the Wilkes Head, which is just been voted the Camera Pub of Sussex. The 5 Sussex branches all get together to vote for their overall best pub, and that won the award. And they had a beer festival at the weekend, and I had a Sonnet Brew American Pale Ale, which was very nice indeed, and that's from Northumberland, I believe, and an Old Dairy Red Top from Kent, which was exceedingly nice as well.
Whereabouts is that pub based? Where is it?
It's in a village called Eastergate, just outside Bognor Regis.
Okay, because you're down that way, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Stephen, we have a couple of beery news items, don't we, this week?
We do, and they're all of a theme. So.
Okay. Do you want your pips, mate?
It's always. Hashtag best pips in show business. Okay, first news story this week, and people are going to ask, why the hell is he talking about this? And there's a reason for this. The Whittam Beer Festival is coming in a few weeks, and the reason why I'm talking about it is because it's my local beer festival, and it's hosted by the cricket club that my son plays for. So I'm going to bang on about this for a few weeks because it's a tiny little festival. It's not a lot of money to get in. The beers are exceptionally reasonably priced. They're all from local breweries close to Whittam in Essex, and maybe a little bit further afield. 30 plus beers, running from the 21st to the 23rd of August. For more information on that one, whittambeerfest.webs.com. So that's the first news item this week, and never let it be said that I don't promote the local the local beer industry, because I do. So there you go.
And if you're wondering where Whittam is, you might find it on a map.
It's between Colchester and Chelmsford, basically. Generally, people, when I tell people I live in Whittam and they don't get it, they'll get Colchester or Chelmsford. If they don't get either of those, then I'm just like, well, it's close to London, and normally that wins it. So that was that one. And then the next two news items are kind of linked, because I thought, what with this show coming out the Friday before the Great British Beer Festival, it would be good just to do a little bit of a preview to next week's the biggest beer festival in the UK. So here goes. 900 plus real ales, most of which will be on cask, but there are going to be a selection of foreign bottles and foreign beers as well around the place. This year they're running a theme that's all about the carnival, and all the names of the bars reflect this. So you've got things like bars are called Clown, Magician, Ringmaster, that sort of thing. It's all of a theme. Now, I've been through the list of beers. I've selected about 20 that I want to try. But bearing in mind that we're going on the last day, the chances of all 20 of those still being available are probably slim. So I'll probably end up doing a different 20 to what I've chosen.
Is it not open on the Saturday and Sunday?
It's open on Saturday.
Open on the
Saturday. On the Saturday.
Oh, I see. Second last day then, because we're going on the Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, but bearing in mind, Mark, that it opens Tuesday lunchtime for a trade session, and then to the public Tuesday evening, and then it's open all day Wednesday, all day Thursday. By the time we get there on Friday, a lot of the beers would have already been gone.
Well, there was enough beer left last year for you to turn up at home with a funny hat on your head that you didn't know you even owned.
Yes, and remarkably, actually found my way home from West London as well. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to be your first time there, Mark, and I know Glenn, you're going to be there on the
I
day
will be there on the
as
Friday
well.
too. Yes.
Is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to?
No. I haven't seen the beer list, so I'll just. I tend to get disappointed if something that I've looked for isn't on, so I just tend to choose on the day, really.
Yeah, see, I did swear to myself that I wasn't going to select the beers from the beer list this year because I do always get disappointed. But then the minute it came out, I was there with my highlighter, going through it, working out which beers I wanted to do. But for those of you that want to have a look at the beer list, it's available at beer.gbBF.org.uk. And there are still tickets available for next week's Great British Beer Festival if people want to get along to it. It's well worth the visit.
Yeah, I saw that they've got a Hog's Back bar and they've got a Fuller's bar, so that will do me.
Yes, and that's a lovely segue, Mark. To be honest with you, actually, into the Hog's Back bar, and our final news story. Friend of the show and all-round marvellous homebrewer Andy Parker has brewed a collaboration with Hog's Back Brewery specifically for the Great British Beer Festival.
What?
So yeah,
he kept that under his hat.
Yeah, it sneaked out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago from nowhere, and I was like, hang on a minute, you kept that quiet, Mr. Parker. Now, I know he had his Lord Nelson launching a couple of weekends ago at the Birmingham Cubed Beer Festival. So he seems to be doing quite well at the moment with doing collaboration brews at festivals. But certainly getting one out of the Great British Beer Festival, that's going to get him noticed. So well done for that, Andy. And I hope there's still some left on Friday for us to try.
Yeah, indeedy. Right, is that the news then, mate?
That's the end of the news. Yeah, all festival themed this week, mate.
Very good. Right, well, let's get into this beer for this week, which is Bishop's Finger from Shepherd Neame, which is the Kentish Strong Ale, 5.4% ABV. Now, Steve, you were saying that this is a beer with a long history.
It is, yeah.
Just saying that, but tell me a little bit about it while we crack it open.
Okay, so it was first brewed in 1958. As a celebration of the end of the post-war austerity years. So throughout the war, there were obviously various restrictions put on what you could buy and what you could consume and that sort of thing. So when the rationing finished in the 1950s, Shepherd Neame, the head brewer at the time, a guy by the name of Gordon Ely, was given the go-ahead by the board of directors at Shepherd Neame to brew this strong beer because they could get hold of the ingredients for it again. So and then it's ever since then it's had a firm place in their sort of staple selection of beers. So it is very much born of a strong history, but it goes back even further than that as well. As a traditional Kentish strong ale, Bishop's Finger takes its name from the Kentish nickname for an ancient finger-shaped signpost found only in Kent on the Pilgrim's Way, pointing towards Canterbury and the shrine of Thomas a Becket. And that was before it was destroyed by Henry VIII in the 16th century. So the name goes way back to the 16th century, the beer back to the 1950s. So quite a significantly historical beer we're drinking here tonight.
And it's a lovely beer-coloured beer. Lovely carbonation.
We really are going back to the season one here, aren't we?
I was going to say it's a lovely amber colour, but is it really amber or is it just brown? I don't know.
Brown.
Brown.
It's
Yeah,
brown. It's got a slightly reddish hue to it. I think where I'm holding it up to the light here, I'm getting a little bit of red coming through there as well.
It's a nice beer-coloured beer.
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like a good traditional pint, doesn't it?
It does, and it smells like a good traditional pint as well. There's a little bit of citrus on there, but it's very, very malty. You get into those biscuity tones coming through.
What hops do they use in this? What hops are they using?
I would say it's probably traditional Kent hops.
It's brewed with chalk-filtered mineral water and Kentish hops.
Okay. It's good enough for me.
Kent is obviously famed for its hops. It's where the hop gardens of old are still based.
Right. Well, shall we tuck into it?
Yes, let's. I've got quite a thirst tonight.
Glenn's already made a start, so let's catch up.
Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
There's a lovely dark warmth to that, just coming through at the end. You get a really refreshing kick up front.
You do.
A nice bitterness on the back as well.
Yeah, it's very well balanced.
It's like a dark biscuity maltiness to it.
I was gonna say that it's almost like a little bit like a chocolate digestive, where you're getting the sweetness of the digestive biscuit that's then balanced with the flavours of the chocolate, just coming through there. It's certainly not got, and I'm hoping both of you are going to get what I say here, but it's certainly not got that traditional Shepherd Neame character to it. And that's a compliment, by the way. A lot of Shepherd Neame beers have a very similar flavour.
Yeah. What do you think of it, Glenn? Have you? I assume you've had this before, man.
I've had this often, yes. I used to live in Kent, and the very first job I had, the very first thing I did when I was appointed to the Sports and Social Club was organise a trip around the Shepherd Neame Brewery.
Nice work.
This is going back about 30 years now, and I've had a lot of Shepherd Neame beer. I used to think Master Brew was a fantastic session bitter, and I actually think this is quite distinctive along with the Master Brew. I think there's a similarity between the two, actually. Spitfire I thought was very average, and this Bishop's Finger I think is the best that they do.
There's a nice touch of character to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've got to say I'm really pleasantly surprised with this, because I was expecting typical supermarket staple beer, nothing to really set it apart, but actually there's a lot going on in there in terms of the flavour. It gives you so much in terms of you do get an initial hit, and then there's a smoothness, and then there's this subtle bitterness at the end, but then it's got a sweetness to it as well, and it's a really decent beer, and I'm actually really enjoying this.
It's quite a spiciness to the hoppiness at the end as well.
Yeah, but not overly so. It's a really well balanced spiciness.
Yeah.
The thing that it's missing for me is that typical earthy character that you tend to get with the Kentish hops and the English hops, and I was expecting a lot of that in here, but it doesn't seem to be there.
No, it's a lot more mellow, isn't it?
It's like they've always almost gone more towards purely using the hops for the bitterness at the end, and they're trying to bring that malt character out more.
Mm.
It's very well balanced, very nice beer, very enjoyable. Certainly wouldn't turn my nose up to it on the supermarket shelf again. Now all we've got to do is get them to start putting their beer in brown bottles, and we'll be okay.
Yeah, the nose has still got that really nice sweet spiciness to it.
Mm. Very much so.
It's almost there's a little bit of floral going on in there as well on the nose. You've got the spiciness, but there's something floral coming through as well. I'm enjoying that. I'm really enjoying that.
As you say, for a standard supermarket beer, it's certainly one of the better ones, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what you could probably pick that up for around £2, maybe. If you're lucky, you'll get it on an offer at 170, 180, maybe 3 for a fiver, that sort of thing.
Mm.
It's certainly one that I'd go for. And at 5.4%, if you're looking for something that's a bit bigger, it's beginning to give you that hint of that there's more going on in here than just a standard supermarket beer.
Indeedy. I mean, at 5.4%, you're getting a nice little bottle of something a little bit weighty, and really nice thick character to it as well. Nice hefty malt taste to it.
Yeah. Like I say, pleasantly surprised I am with this one. Yeah, enjoying that. Happy we've gone back to the supermarket, mate, for this one.
Now, Glenn, when was the last time we had you on the show? It was a little while ago, wasn't it?
It was before Christmas, yeah. So,
really? Was that
must
that
be
long
going
ago?
back.
Well, in that case, I can ask you, what's your beer of the year so far, mate?
My bottled beer actually was one that I had recently, which was Ilkley Brewery. We're doing a collaboration with a couple of Dutch brewers called De Passy. The name of the beer was De Passy, and it was an Imperial Passion Fruit White IPA.
Wow.
And it was about 7.1%, something like that.
Sounds amazing.
And it was fantastic, yeah. Superb. I would highly recommend you getting a hold of that if you can.
De Passy.
De Passy. Ilkley Brewery, and a collaboration with 2 Dutch brewers. Rydop and Urzerp, if that's how they're pronounced. Which is probably way out.
And so did the passion fruit really come through in the flavours?
It did actually, yes. And it was a fantastic beer.
It sounds amazing. Oh, dearie me.
And Glenn, what's been going on your blog recently? Because you tend to write about a range of things. You don't just do beer tastings. You write about sort of brewery visits as well. What have you been writing about recently?
Well, recently was the World Cup of beers I did, where I was trying as many different beers from the countries who were represented in the World Cup.
Oh, who won?
So, Holland actually was probably the top of all the countries, I think. I was pleasantly surprised by France as well. Germany were steady and consistent, as always. And Belgium was exactly as I expected, superb. And America were doing very well too. Greece surprised me. They had a very nice dark lager from a brewery called Fix, F-I-X, and there were some truly awful ones too.
Go on, name and shame. What was the worst beer that you drank as
The
part
worst
of,
was
yeah.
the worst was Brahma, without a doubt.
Ooh,
It was
I'm not surprised.
totally tasteless. Shocking.
So did you try English beers as part of this, or did you rule that out as kind
Oh
of
no! England didn't last long, but there was time for
true to form?
Shoreditch Triangle IPA I chose for England, and that was excellent, absolutely brilliant beer from I think
London
that's
Fields
from
beer.
London Fields. That's right.
Yeah.
So that was my first try of London Fields, and it won't be the last.
Cool. And we can find your blog at beer-writings.blogspot.co.uk.
That's right.
I think that's
yes.
right.
Yes. My next post will probably be a post about a brewery visit that I'm going on this weekend, which was to present the Downlands Brewery with the beer of the festival at my local beer festival. So that's a brewery just outside Brighton.
Oh, cool.
Their honey porter won the beer of the festival.
Nice.
I'm sorry, I can't allow any more plugs for any local festivals.
The festival's been and gone now.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right then. You can talk about it.
Wickham is still on everyone's calendar, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. You can hear a lot about it. I'm telling you, the Whittam Beer Festival.
Oh, dearie me. Right, shall we wrap up our comments on this Bishop Singer then?
Yeah, go on. You've been quite eloquent with your wrapping up over the last few weeks, mate. So I'm keen to let you go first.
Oh,
no
God,
pressure.
There's really. It's a very nice beer, but there really isn't much to it than what I've already said, which is a nice spicy sweet nose to it. The colour just makes it look like a lovely looking traditional pint, and unlike so many supermarket beers, this has decent body to it, has decent flavour to it. I wouldn't call it a session beer at 5.4%. Some people might call it a session beer, but
Yeah, be a good session.
yeah, that'd be.
But,
you'd remember that or not?
Yeah.
as the case may be.
It has a really nice, thick, malty, biscuity profile to it, I think, and yeah, it's a nice beer to chew on. Good
summary, mate. Very, very, very good.
Yep.
I'm gonna let Glenn jump in with any additional comments before see if there's anything left for me to add at the end.
No, I think he said it all there. It was perfectly put.
Oh, thank you.
No, it is a very nice bottled beer, and it's one that when I'm in a supermarket I will always look out for.
Yeah, I'm glad it's nice because my wife bought me 3 bottles the other night. So I said I needed one, and there were 3 for £5 or something. She goes, "Oh, I thought you might like more." So I don't even know if I like it yet, but fortunately I do. So lucky me. Steve, what were your final thoughts on this Bishop's Finger, buddy?
Again, not really too much to add from what you guys have already said. It's very well balanced, lots of character in there. There's maltiness, there's some floral aromas. It's got a lovely soft finish, and yeah, just to echo what Glenn said, really, it's one that I would now pick out of a supermarket shelf rather than avoid. I'm really glad that we've done this evening because I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool. Very good. We've got I was going to let you segue into this, buddy, but I'm on fire.
You're storming through now. Go for it.
We've got the Beer O'Clock Show lock-in coming up in about a month and a bit. It's 6th of September, is it? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, you're still worrying me. You don't actually know the date, mate.
I'll remember when it comes down to it, don't worry. And we had a bit of a chat with, tell me his name again.
Ian from the 11 PM Somewhere podcast.
Yeah. I actually Yeah, I was calling it the 7 p.m. somewhere podcast for a bit, but it's a bit later than that. Ian from the 11 p.m. podcast, which is a beer podcast from Ireland. We had a bit of a chat with him about, a little bit about what he does, but mainly about the lock-in coming up, and this is what we had. Okay, and coming up in September, on September 6th, which is a Saturday night, we have, as we've been banging on about for absolutely ages, we have the Beer O'Clock Show live lock-in on the YouTube, the Google Hangouts, and all that. We're going to have a bunch of different people, and one of them is joining us right now from the 11 p.m. Somewhere podcast, which is a beer podcast from Ireland. It's Ian. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Mark. How are you? That was kind of pervy, wasn't it?
That was a bit creepy, yeah.
That was incredibly pervy. I'm moist now, mate.
But it didn't need beer. Wow, this is insane.
Right, well, you're going to be on the slate for our little lock-in on that Saturday night.
Yep, we are going to take a cross-channel, or is it cross-sea? Cross-sea, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and we've got someone from America and everything coming to join us, so it's going to be a proper transcontinental piss-up, which is going to be fantastic.
Stop robbing from Greg Koch. You're going to say it's pan-global next. Go on.
No, I'm not going to say it. I would never say it's pan-global. Steve, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this lock-in, buddy?
Yes, mate. Of course. As you say, we've been banging on about it for a few weeks now, and I know Ian's been talking about it on the 11 p.m. Somewhere podcast as well. It's going to be just a group of us, just getting together online on a Saturday night. There's going to be beer involved. There's possibly going to be quite a few beers involved, and one of the beers that's very definitely going to be involved has come courtesy of Thornbridge, who are supporting the lock-in, and they're going to give everybody that's around the virtual table a bottle of Kipling to share. So at some point there will be a collective group review of Kipling by Thornbridge, and then we'll just go from there and we'll see where the evening takes us. It should be a good laugh.
It'll be a great laugh, and
Indeed.
just in advance, Kipling's amazing, so I'm already sold.
I think anyone has already tried Kipling, but it's going to be great to have 10 people trying to get their words in at the same time.
It's going to be very interesting to manage, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially depending on where in the evening we decide to do it.
Early on is I think the preference. Why we've still
Ian,
got functioning taste buds. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Ian, tell us a little bit about the 11 p.m. Somewhere podcast, because it's a real beer, real talk is your tagline, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of like my homage to sort of, Brewdog talk about the punk era and everything else. I talk about like the 90s and the sort of grunge music and West Coast hip hop, like no holds barred, unapologetic approach to talking about craft beer and getting people excited about it in Ireland and what the heck we're doing here, because you know what, it's not really that well known outside the country what we're doing, and there's sort of no one doing a podcast about it. And I like podcasting, I like craft beer, and that just works.
Well, there you go. Nice combination. We've found that out as well. So how is we don't want to go on too long with this little segment, but how is the craft beer scene in Ireland? How many breweries do you have that are like at the level that you would see Brewdog or Harveston or whoever?
We have got nothing on the scale of what's going on in the UK. And that's being really honest, but that is also not a detraction about what's going on here. I mean, we're at the stage now where we're up to close to 50 breweries in this country, which is quite a lot for a small island. If you think about it, there's 32 sort of counties in this island, or sort of like mini little provinces and everything else, and there's more than one in each of those when you sort of put it in those terms of numbers. So it's going quite well. We're still sort of in points of a percentage of the Irish market. I mean, 1 in 3 pints in this country is black muck that comes from James's Gate. So that's right, I said it. But it is making its way. It's starting to become more popular. You go into a Tesco in this country, you find Sam Adams, you'll find other craft beers that are in there. You'll find some crafty beers too. Our off licenses are starting to get more savvy, stock more Irish craft beer. Brewdog is like a hugely popular beer in this country. Like it's just insane. You go to places and you find like bottles of Sierra Nevada. It's awesome. I find bottles of Rogue in an Irish supermarket chain. That's really cool as well. And we've got some amazing beers which I'm going to be sending to you guys as well, so you guys can experience the Irish taste revolution, as I'm going to call it as well.
Really looking forward to receiving those beers, mate, actually, having seen what you're going to send us. And I know just before the lock-in as well, we're going to be planning a little collaboration with you as well, where we're going to be reviewing one of those beers that you're sending us. Which is the one, do you think, that most typifies where the Irish craft beer scene is at the moment?
Do you know what? I was actually listening to your podcast last week where you guys were like, oh my God, we survived doing 2 beers in a review. So I'm kind of thinking we go big or go home, and we do 2 beers. So
let's do it. It's our summer special. We would have been off air for a couple of weeks. I'll be absolutely desperate to drink myself into a coma.
Nice. I like your enthusiasm. It's brilliant. It fills me with good vim and vigor. So the 2 beers we're going to be looking at is, I wanted to send a stout as one of them, and well, it's not really a stout. It is a stout. And the reason being is Ireland is famous for the black muck, and I wanted to show that black muck is not just that. We have come so much further with our stouts, and it's going to be Galway-based Buried at Sea, which is this chocolate milk stout, which is just luxurious, and it's big and it's bold, and they've got this young guy who's a brewer, incredible, but that's going to be one of them. And the other one, I'm actually torn on this, and it was going to be a choice between Brew Brewery's Rua beer, which is this red ale, but I think it was more like a hoppy red IPA in terms of how it's broached, or Sam Black's Blacks of Kinsale KPA, which is this big, like aggressive counterpoint to something like Brewdog Punk. Which I think it would probably be the better of the 2 to go with. I mean, the other ones you guys will utterly love and enjoy anyway, but I think, yeah, it's going to be Kinsale Pale Ale, so you can actually see the Irish response to Punk IPA, which is good, because that's a pretty common beer in the UK that people can get to grips with and they can identify with, and this beer will run lovely counterpoint to that.
Excellent. That sounds like really exciting stuff, and that'll be as I say, we'll be recording that over the summer, and I think the intention is to actually release that the night before the lock-in. So it will obviously give our listeners an introduction to yourself and what your style of reviewing and chatting is, but it will also be a nice segue into the lock-in the following night.
That'll be a good way to send all your listeners running for the hills screaming.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, Ian, thanks very much for joining us for this little bit. We'll catch up with you properly in a good few weeks' time.
Indeed we will.
Okay, so that was Ian from the 11 PM Somewhere Beer podcast from Ireland. Steve.
Mark.
Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, just no prize this week, because people will be aware that I'm on holiday and this is a pre-record kind of. So we've suspended the prize for this week. But keep the pictures coming in on Instagram, because I'm loving the competition that's on there now. At Beer O'Clock Show on Instagram, use the hashtag Cheers Guys, or Beer O'Clock Show, or Beer Porn, or whatever you want. Any of those 3, plus any other combination of hashtags, and we'll find it, and you might be in with a chance of winning the prize.
Ray. Glenn, thank you very much for joining us yet again, mate. It's always great to have you on.
Thank you for inviting me back.
It's been a pleasure, Glenn. Looking forward to seeing you at the Great British Beer Festival.
I look forward to it.
Right, you can find us online at beeroclockshow.co.uk, on Twitter at beeroclockshow. I'm on Twitter as well at Roku Beer, and I'm also on Untapped at Roku, and Steve is there at Beer O'Clock Show Steve. Add us as friends on Untapped so we can see what you're drinking and you can see what we're drinking. We can have loads of fun. Look on the website on the Season 4 beer list. There's discount codes at the very bottom, 10% off your order from Beer Boutique, Honest Brew, and Ales by Mail. Right, next week, Stephen, what's the beer?
Next week we are doing the professional's choice. It's the beer that everybody defaults to when you ask them what is your favourite beer. We are drinking All Val with another guest to complete a hat trick of guests. Next week we have Ed Razzle joining us. Ed is the bar manager at the Swan Public House in Stratford St Mary, and he is also the co-author of the Beer East Anglia website that Justin was talking about a few weeks ago. So Ed is joining us to do all Val.
Very good. Well, until next week, thank you, Glenn, again.
Thank you.
And thank you, Steve.
It's been the highlight of my week.
Mine too. Till next time, cheerio.